Line at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning. Let's get right to it. Ordering Zionists into camps, demanding to sterilize them. Good morning, Amy Jacobson here, Jeannie Eyes. We're filling in for Dan Proft, and you can continue the conversation with us from 11 to noon, Monday through Friday. You can always download the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. But let's put all Zionists in camps and castrate them, Jeannie.
Why not?
It's a proposal, and I think Governor Pritzker might be on board. With more on this, let's welcome back to the program Ed Morrissey, managing editor for HotAir.com. He's all things everything. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so we're reading this article that you wrote about putting Zionists in camps, and do tell.
Well, this is Maureen Galindo, who is running in a runoff to get the Democrat nomination of the new Texas 35 district. This is in the San Antonio area in Bexar County. And she's running against the local sheriff, the Bexar County Sheriff, Johnny Garcia, for the Democratic nomination. And apparently she felt the need to stand out and decided that she wanted to go the full Graham Plattner. And this is not the first time she's made these types of comments, but this is the first time I think that she's actually suggested that maybe we should have concentration camps for Zionists and conduct castration on or sterilization on Zionists. And I'm putting Zionist in scare quotes because we all know what she means. She means the Jews. And it's amazing to me that this is actually still up, at least as of yesterday afternoon, was actually still up on her Instagram. And I think it's a measure of how mainstream anti-Semitism, rabid anti-Semitism, bordering onto Nazism has become in the Democrat Party. I think once you start excusing, the death's head logo of the Nazi death camps being tattooed on a senator or a candidate for Senate, there's a lot of things that comes out of that, and this is one of those things. I think that Maureen Galindo thinks that there's a thread to be pulled here with Democrat voters, and based on some of the comments that she's getting there, it does look like there's people down there who think that she's on the right track, and this is what should happen.
And sterilize them so they can't procreate.
Exactly. And, gee, that sounds awfully familiar to anybody who studied World War II and what led up to it. It's scary stuff. I don't know if she's going to get the nomination down there. The runoff is on Tuesday, and Texas is doing early voting. We won't know the results until at least Tuesday night. But the fact that she actually came in first in the primary, she actually led Johnny Garcia by about 1,200 votes in that first round. I mean, that's kind of scary. And she was talking about, she was making these sort of anti-Semitic comments prior to that round of voting. I don't think she said anything quite this outrageous, but it's scary stuff. And there are a few Democrats that are speaking up about this, but at the same time, the party is backing Graham Plattner with the Totenkopf tattoo on his chest, and they're backing Hamas activists who say pretty much the same kind of thing about Zionists on college campuses, and Democrats are right there. You got Hassan Piker, for instance, who's campaigning with people like Abdul al-Sayed in Michigan, who is equally activist for Hamas and for Islamists. This is the Democrat Party in 2026. It's very scary stuff.
Well, it is scary, and you write in your Ridiculing Wounded Troops, which was about Graham Plattner, that, a rational Democrat Party wouldn't have allowed Plattner to even get close. But it appears that the Democrat Party has been taken over by their socialist end, and it's not ending anytime soon. I mean, this is not good for the country. It's not good, and I don't care. I don't want the Democrats to win at all. So it's fine with me if they put up the crazies. I'm all for that, but it is a little bit frightening that the Democrats are elevating these folks to the highest levels of office in the United States. What the hell is going on here?
Well, this is the Democrat Socialists of America. They have basically just about created or completed an ideological capture of the Democrat Party. And you have a guy like John Fetterman, who in 10 or 15 years ago would have just been seen as a sort of run-of-the-mill progressive, liberal progressive Democrat candidate, who is suddenly a moderate because the party has shifted so far to the left, to the radical left. They've left John Fetterman behind. And, we talk a lot about John Fetterman because John Fetterman has a moral center, right? And he's got integrity. And so he's very appealing to people who understand what the stakes are involved. But he's not a Republican. I know that there's this huge effort to try to get him to flip to the GOP. He'd be far to the left of Susan Collins in the Senate. And we'd be complaining about him every single day if he was a Republican. We like him because he's a Democrat with integrity, and that's what he is. The people who are taking this party over are the Democratic Socialists, not the traditional Democrat Party. They basically skinned the Democrat Party, and they're wearing the skin to cover for their hard left progressive socialist policies. And part of that is this occupier-occupied paradigm, in which they divide the world into the occupiers who are inevitably white or Jewish, and the occupied who are inevitably everybody else. And they've got it backwards in Israel, where the Jews were actually the indigenous peoples, and the Arabs were the colonizers. They were the imperialists. And so it just leads to these ridiculous outcomes and to really very scary policies.
Well, it also appears that the Democrats, even when they're put in power, which they frequently are, and of course, Karen Bass is one of those who's really under assault, but really it's about their competency, and they don't appear to be competent whatsoever. So in another article that you just recently wrote, 17% is a passing grade, and you chastised Karen Bass, who pledged homelessness by 100% in her first year term as mayor, and she hasn't come close to that. In fact, it's gotten worse.
I'm not even sure that there actually has been a 17% decrease in street homelessness, which is a really odd construct. And anytime somebody uses a term like street homelessness to sort of narrow down the parameters, it sends up red flags. My guess is that homelessness has increased over the last 4 years, and certainly the people who lived in the Palisades in Altadena have been homeless ever since. That was over a year ago. And the city's not letting them rebuild their houses. Very few of them have been allowed to rebuild their houses since then. So all of those people are technically homeless. Spencer Pratt is technically homeless, and he's running for mayor because his house got burned down, and the city won't let him rebuild. And incompetence is certainly part of it. And I think that we see that in lots of cities, Chicago, New York City, Minneapolis. But a lot of it is just, this is revolution.
Well, when you look at all the homes that burned down, 6,000 burned down, only 4,157 people have applied for permits, which means that the rest said they gave up. They don't want to spend the time or money, or their insurance isn't going to cover it. So they said that's enough. They resold their property. Only 30, and this is according to Fox News, only 30 homes have been completely built, and the permits to rebuild 2,135 have been approved. And this is more than a year after the fire. So that said, what do you think of the rise of Spencer Pratt? Do you think he has a chance? I mean, his numbers are improving, but the latest Emerson poll shows Bass at 30%, and he's at 22%, and then you still have 16% undecided.
Well, I mean, I think that there's three people in the race. I don't know if Los Angeles does runoffs. I'd have to go look that up. If they do a runoff, going head-to-head against Bass might be his best shot. But look, I mean, if you got a non-Democrat getting to 22% in a three-way race, I believe it's still just a three-way race in Los Angeles, that's pretty good. And it is an indication, and the fact that the incumbent is only at 30% in a three-way race is another good indication that the people of Los Angeles are fed up with the incompetence and with the it's not just incompetence. She was elsewhere. She was in Ghana at a moment where she'd been warned that there was a really good chance of wildfires that could be particularly destructive, and she left not just the city, she left the country, regardless, without leaving somebody in charge. The person who was supposed to be in charge, the deputy mayor who was in charge of emergency response, was under suspension because he had allegedly called in a bomb threat against City Hall. These people are revolutionary clowns, and I think the people of Los Angeles are sick and tired of that. At least I hope they are.
Well, apparently the Kentuckians, at least in CD4, were sick and tired of Massey, and they ousted him. What do you say about that?
Well, and Massey really kind of showed his true colors in his concession speech. I mean, that's the worst concession speech I've ever heard, when he says, I was trying to find my opponent, but I couldn't find him in Tel Aviv. I mean, this guy turned into a nut. You know, back in the day, he was a Tea Party guy, and he was a pretty decent Tea Party guy, but over the last couple of years, he turned into a real nut, and I think it's because he and Marjorie Taylor Greene and a handful of others really got into the whole get the clicks online sort of culture, and just decided that he was the main character of the world, and whatever he did was going to be righteous.
Well, Illinois has their own two. Yeah, we have our own two like that. We have Joe Walsh and Adam Kinzinger. They were elected into the Tea Party wave as well, and they just turned out to be crazy.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that Joe Walsh and Adam Kinzinger are crazy. I think that they
Joe Walsh is.
Well, maybe Joe Walsh is, but they just got kind of broken by Trump. Thomas Massey is a nut. He's turned into a nut, and he's not the only one. I mean, you can talk about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I mean, they turn into nuts, and I don't know what's driving that other than the need for clicks. They're addicted to the clicks. Thomas Massey had lots of opportunity to work with his party to get things done, and instead he decided to throw wrenches in the works at every single turn. And basically brought this on himself. I think Ed Gallrein's going to be a pretty good congressman, and I think that the Kentucky 4 voters got themselves an upgrade.
Now, Ed Morrissey from HotAir.com, you recently wrote an op-ed about the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and the DOJ striking a big blow against the trans industry. And a new settlement, of course, this is taking place at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. We spoke about it on our other show, The Real Story, which is 11 to noon, Monday through Friday. But what are your thoughts on this? Because this is a big deal, and this is just the beginning. This is just the first hospital.
This is a huge deal. And I think that what's really going to turn the tide on this is actually the insurance companies, because they're going to simply refuse to underwrite malpractice insurance for these practices that do pediatric sex change operations. And I think that in another 10 years, they're going to look back on this and see this as the same type of thing that they were doing with brain surgeries to alleviate the lobotomies, the word I'm looking for, lobotomies to alleviate emotional issues and that sort of thing. It is butchery. And whatever anybody else thinks of Ken Paxton, he's kind of a controversial figure here. I think he's going to win the runoff, by the way, especially after Trump's endorsement. This was a huge, big deal, and Paxton really should take a victory lap on this, because that settlement was something else. They forced Texas Children's Hospital not just to pay $10 million and to forever refrain from this practice, but actually open up a detransition clinic, the very first in the country, that is going to help victims of this practice and try to help them regain their health. And that is really, I think, the biggest humiliation for Texas Children's Hospital and the doctors that were working there. It's a lot of bad things that happened down there. There was a whistleblower, Ethan Haim, at TCH. Mm-hmm. They smeared him. The Biden Department of Justice targeted him for criminal prosecution for blowing the whistle here. He's been vindicated. He's suing everybody involved, and hopefully he's going to get some justice separately from this. But this has been a despicable chapter in the medical industry, and I'm hoping that this is one of the first real steps to putting an end to it.
Well, we're going to have Ethan Haim's lawyer on, Marcella Burke. She is a friend of mine, and so we'll have her on The Real Story next week. She couldn't talk about the case this week because it's still under court seal, so she'll be on next week with us. So I'm really thrilled about that. We've had Ethan Haim on my radio show prior to this, too, so we're happy about this decision. It's a huge decision, and I can't wait for them to sue more people over this and get vindication. Also, I want to promote Illinois Right to Life. We'll have Chloe Cole, who is a detransitioner, too. She will be at their banquet June 18th. You can go to the IllinoisRightToLife.org, and you can get tickets there to hear for her. So
that's great. Chloe Cole has been so courageous about this and standing up for other detransitioners, and I guess I must be mispronouncing the doctor's name, Dr. Ethan Haim, has been just an absolute hero in this. And so I'm looking forward to your conversation with his attorney, because I know that that's going to be fascinating.
Well, you know what you could do, Ed Morrissey? You can always listen to the Real Story podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts.
I plan to do that.
Okay, it's your homework assignment.
You've already converted a new listener.
All right, Ed Morrissey, we're going to have to leave it there for today. Managing editor for HotAir.com. Always a pleasure to have you on, sir, and have a wonderful 3-day Memorial holiday weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and he joined us on the Alpha Wealth Group Answer Line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Everywhere you turn, it's plus, plus, plus. Retail chains, streamers, even our phones come with plus. And to think it all started with Hasseless mattress, because nobody has more plus